Spirituality, I think, can be a confusing term. Spirituality versus, say, religion. I grew up in a Christian church, and there were a lot of beautiful things about that. I really felt my heart open to God, but at some point I couldn't agree with a lot of the organized religion. I felt there was hypocrisy and sometimes abuse with money, with sexuality, with power, and so I walked away from religion, organized religion in the church. And to do that, it was frightening. I had been taught that if I did that, I would go to hell. And I had to risk that. But at some point I thought, my thirst to know God, a God that makes sense to me, is so intense that I'm willing to risk giving up everything I've been taught to find what it is. And I knew that I would have to find that on my own. And I went through a very lonely period of time. It was like walking through a desert. I had left what I'd been taught, and I hadn't found my own sense of spirituality yet, or made that connection with God in a way that that I could feel the love, not from fear. You know, I didn't want to love God because I was afraid of going to hell. I wanted to love God because I tasted that love as my own truth. And so the spiritual path for me began when that longing grew again. I'd left the religion that I grew up with. I didn't know what else was coming. I was very cynical about the hypocrisy that I'd experienced around God, around organized religion. And something in me was still like longing and thirsting. My heart wanted a connection to God, to spirit. And you know, I found that through poetry and Sufi poetry, through music. It woke something up in me, and I started looking again. And I remember going to a book fair, and there was a book, and it had a yellow cover, and I opened it, and there was a poem by a Sufi poet, Hafez, and he said, "How did the rose ever open itself to share its beauty with the world?" It said it felt love, or else we all remain too frightened. And I was so cynical, and I still just started weeping, because it touched something in me beyond my mind that had become cynical, and into my heart that had this longing. So spirituality to me is when it's your own search and pursuit, when God becomes real to you in your own heart.